Over the past 10 weeks, I have been in development of a digital artifact project, undertaking research, critical thinking, and development to create this media project, which is made to be able to provide beneficial content to an audience or community. By connecting the project to an analytical framework, which would increasingly allow me to further my own understanding and help develop my project further. For my digital artifact, I teamed up with a fellow classmate to make this a collaborative learning project. The project was based on being able to connect with our audience over a few platforms and be able to apply our information process. The process of the digital artifact was broken into stages. The first stage was for myself and Cassie, my classmate, to nominate our project direction, therefore creating an ideation process. Through this, we took to brainstorming. What type of media did we want to create? What platform did we want to use to post? The first idea was a podcast, and it immediately became a flowing process from there with a couple of bumps along the road. We took a look into what game we would utilise next. This is where The Sims made its way into our project. Next thing we had to think about and look into is how we can utilise the media and The Sims together to create a project based on an analytical framework, as well as a niche for another subject. The Sims, being the life simulation game that it is, made us first recognise how we could relate it to real life, whether this meant our own personal lives or just life as a whole. The idea to make the podcast into a visual one via YouTube was what seemed to be the best idea moving forward, and to be able to have an engagement aspect to what we were talking about. Finding our audience wasn't probably directed at one community entirely, but a couple in different ways. The first community and audience we wanted this to be directed towards was one of the Sims 4 players. This being the chosen game we played, and going off the content we were discussing, would hopefully be insightful. Also, with our gameplay being to share our builds and characters with others. The Sims 4 gallery feature is a subtle way to be able to connect with our chosen Sims 4 community. Another community we wish to aim our content towards was the likes of people in the health and fitness world. These people ideally have some interest in The Sims. Although this was our selected audience, the main point of our DA was to be able to compare the way that the life simulation game could take effect on its users, connecting to health and fitness. This then furthers into our main issue, which we covered through our project. Overall, does it affect an actual player in any way? What relates to actual real life, and what is totally unrealistic? The analytical framework was a concept which was a major fail early, fail often moment through the period between pitch and beta. I wasn't quite sure in the direction to structure my project, but trying and adjusting the process became easier, and the analytical framework began to develop. At first, of course, without proper knowledge, we weren't really sure what this even entailed. Our analytical framework was slightly shifted through the weeks of our project to get it where it is today. The main three things in our visual podcast was based upon fitness stereotypes, negative connotations in relation to life simulation games, and lifestyle. To reflect on the project as a whole, there is definitely things we wish we did earlier or planning our time better overall. It is evident to me from our analytics that we definitely could have utilised our platforms further to our audience and to gain more reach. I think we neglected this project a little bit towards the end and overall didn't help the growth or development of the Sims pod. In terms of our growth and analytics since beta, not much has changed. Although we were only able to get one of 2 episodes we originally planned to have completed by now, we haven't seen any reaction to anything. Even though posting from our Twitter audience and using hashtags, we're really struggling to reach our audience on any of our platforms and have lost interaction with each post, which is really disheartening. I think this project was a big learning process in terms of putting in time and effort to excel my learning and development of projects. And content is so important. And I have been made up a list of things which I could have done differently, things I would continue to do, and what I would do differently if the project was restarting. Firstly, I wouldn't make it a visual podcast. I think YouTube is a really difficult platform to manage, and I think utilising TikTok primarily as a way to post, share and create would have been a more practical and time-efficient way to get our message across. The TikTok platform has become one of the most used applications in the world and is one I personally understand and know how to use. I think it is a greatly organised analytical platform where hashtags and sound used are simply the key to reaching your intended audience. I also think organising content and having a clear, laid out plan rather than the traditional speak from points part of a podcast would have been a lot easier to stick to our analytical framework and really evolve our project as a whole.